Welcome back, everybody. Season 2, Episode 2, 2023, coming at you with Everybody Needs a Nudge. I got Root Beer with me. Say hello, Root Beer.
Hi.
Oh, you usually say hello, Root Beer.
Not today.
No, you're changing it up.
Switching it up.
And we got this week's guest, Robert Nichols. Say hello, Robert.
Hello. Robert Nichols here.
Yeah, so Robert is one of the originators here at Crowd Lending, and been with us for how long?
Since 2018.
Wow, 28. So you came on early.
I came on early. I was broken at first, and I think it was official 2019, like end of 2018 officially.
So going on 4 years here.
You got it.
Wow. So Robert is all things real estate, as I like to say. He does a little bit of everything. You can see from his hat, Robert Nichols Companies. He's got a brokerage. He does some obviously does some originating for us. He does his own house flips. He does his own developments. He does educational classes. He's got a really great online presence. Do a little bit of everything. Jack of all trades when it comes to real estate.
Trying to be, man. Just want to add value and empower folks who want to get in the game.
Which I love. And we'll get into that and sort of how you got where you are. We went over sort of the format. So we just talk, we're going to cover some things that are going on in my life. And Root Beer's life, and how's things with you, Root Beer?
They're great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Roommate's doing great?
Roommate's doing great.
Yeah, so a little backstory. Do you know that she lives with her boyfriend, but they also have a roommate?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's the Friends thing, right? Like the Friends show.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Friends show, yeah.
It's the new model, man. It's not affordable out here. You got to make it work.
That's right. So he's the basement dweller. He's like Root Beer's long lost son that she never had.
Really, he is. Truly.
Love it.
But everything's going good down there? Going well?
Yeah, it's great.
All right. So I'm back in the gym. You're a big workout guy, right?
I am. I was in there this morning. TMX Boxing. Got to give him the shout out.
There we go. That's this week's sponsor, TMX.
Chris Ryan. Hit him up.
Where's he at?
Right in Quincy.
All right.
Yeah, right in Quincy, man. They're local, right down the street from here.
So what time in the morning do you do that?
So pre-kids, I used to get up at 5 a.m. every day. I was in the gym by 5:15 getting it in. Now with 4 kids and all of the hustle and bustle that comes with that, I drop them off first, and then I head over there by like 7:38.
So you take them to school?
Bus stop. Got to bring them to the bus stop.
Okay. All right. Then they hop the bus, and they go over to all of them at Dexter?
All of them at Dexter.
So they go over to Dexter, and they get bussed back in the afternoon?
You got it.
That's nice. That's because it's tough to get to Dexter. You can't get there from here.
It is. There's no highway access. You're driving through the city, you're hitting Mattapan, JP, and all the traffic. No thanks.
Yeah, all the round, the rotaries. It's crazy.
It is, man. And when they miss the bus, it's hell. It's an hour out of my day lost.
Yeah. Your gym time.
That's right. It's my gym time. You got it. And I tell them in the car, they don't forget it. Like, guys, come on. This is my hour. Like, I need this.
Yeah. So are you actually boxing?
Yeah. So I usually do like one-on-one training with Chris, and then sometimes we'll do some sparring and stuff like that.
Really?
Very light, not nothing too aggressive. You know what I mean? I gotta get to work and make sure I can get these loans done and get these deals done.
You don't want to mess up that pretty face, Robert.
You got it.
Right? Can't be coming in here with a black eye.
If you see me like that, just ask about the other guy.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm telling you.
That's it. Yeah, you should see the other guy. I feel like that's something my father would have said back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, you should see the other guy.
That's it.
I feel like that's something you would say.
Right. That's kind of what I meant. So I watch shows, and I watch. There's one particular show that I really like. It's called Aerial America, and it's on the Smithsonian Channel, and I reference it all the time. And so this week they did, and this is pretty timing because of Martin Luther King Day just passed on Friday. So they did, and they probably timed it up, but they did Maryland and Texas. Okay, so I watched them back to back. I think it was Sunday morning. My life has changed dramatically because my kids are now getting older, so I don't have any sports super early in the morning anymore. As the kids get older, especially with hockey, and we'll get into your son. Your son's a big soccer player, right?
Yes.
And I don't know if this works the same way, but as your kids get older, the games get later in the day, right? They kind of reserve those early morning slots for the 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 years old. Same thing in soccer?
Soccer's a little different. The younger kids go earlier in the afternoon.
Okay.
And then the older kids go late into the evening.
Okay. All right. Is that for games? Or
practice.
What about for games on the weekend?
Games on the weekends, the older kids get preference. We go like midday. The younger kids are always earlier.
Always. Okay.
Yep.
So they did the Texas one, and they focused on Galveston, Texas, which I guess was before Houston was like the main hub of Texas, because they had water access all over the place. But what I thought was interesting was the first time that the Emancipation Proclamation was read in Texas was in Galveston, and they showed the building. Like, they show the building, right, and then they do a little narrative, like, this is the building. When they did the other part of Texas, like they did JFK's assassination, like, this is the building that the gunman was in. So they said, oh, this was the building, and this is the balcony where they first read the Emancipation Proclamation. But it was 2 years after it was signed in, and Texas didn't even know. The slaves in Texas didn't know they were free until 2 years after they were free.
I believe it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy to me.
Lack of education, guys.
Yeah. So just, I mean, but again, that's 18. When is that? I should know that. 1865 or something, right? So you can't you're not just texting your buddy like, hey, man,
hey, we're free.
We're free.
Yep. Exactly.
It just took that long for that news to travel there.
Yep.
But I do my workouts, is what I was saying, and so I go in here in the gym and I jump on the Peloton, or I jump on the not a treadmill, what's it called?
Elliptical.
The elliptical, and I go for walks. So I did Italy.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I started in Pia. Have you ever been to Italy?
Have not.
Have
been
you been
to
to Europe yet at all?
I have 5 times, 6 times.
Jeez.
It's the kid. My son, soccer. That's the soccer capital of the world.
So you're hold on a second.
Yeah.
You're traveling to Europe.
Yep.
For your, how old's your son?
So my son is now 15.
So, but he's a pretty accomplished player, right?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's top of his game. He's in the highest league you can be in this area in the country.
So I was driving in here today, listening to 1030, which, on AM radio, which my daughter makes fun of me all the time because
AM.
she's like,
school.
what is this? What is this nonsense?
Right.
And by the way, it's all like bad news after news after bad news, right?
Yep.
So I'll be driving her in, and she'll be like, Dad, we already heard this, because it's just a loop,
Yep.
But they were interviewing a guy from the New England Revolution who runs the youth program. Was your son involved in that?
That is my son's coach.
That's your son's
the guy
coach.
who runs the youth program from the Revs. Yeah, Rob Becerra.
Yeah.
That's my son's coach.
Yeah, okay.
He also coaches my son Jay's group. Yeah, he usually the director doesn't coach, but he just took a liking to these kids and stuck with them.
So you've got 2 kids in that program?
Just one.
Just one.
Yeah.
Your oldest.
My oldest, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So they were talking about, and we should get him on the show because we'll find out how he ended up where he is, because they have 2 kids that are already signed contracts or are playing pro. Does that sound correct?
Oh, yeah. Noel Buck and Esmer.
Yeah.
Those are my son's buddies. Yeah. They're already signed. Like, they're like 17 now, a couple years older than my son.
Okay.
Signed with the first team, making money.
Really?
Yep.
So they're signed with the New England Revolution?
Men's team.
So
yes.
it's like a farm system. That's what they're trying to build.
They farm them to Revs, and then after they get to Revs' first team, then they sell them to Europe. That's typically what happens. So, like, we were first in the league, not this past season, but the prior season. We sold 3 of our players for almost $30 million in transfer fees, and then we kind of fell to the bottom of the league again. But that's the game for MLS. They're really looking to leverage the system where these owners can make a killing.
So those 3 had already established themselves as professionals with the New England Revolution.
Correct.
You're not saying the kids coming out of the program year 1 are being sold.
No, not year
Okay.
1. No, these guys, one of them was from college, another one was an international player, and then one was an American player, Matt Turner. He was a goalkeeper. He was homegrown, not with the Revs, with another program, but he ended up coming here, and then after a couple of seasons, they got him over to Europe. Yeah.
So you're, and we're a little off track, but that's fine. That New England Revs junior team, whatever. What do they call that? What's the
Revs Academy?
Revs Academy. So
Yep.
Revs Academy. Who do they play?
So they play other Revs Academies throughout the country. So my son travels like every other weekend. He'll be in New York. He'll be in Connecticut. He'll go down to Florida.
And they're all run by the New England Revolution?
They're all run by the local MLS team.
Okay.
So all of these are MLS
Okay.
clubs. And then you have some spin-off teams as well who are in the program just so we can play local games.
Yep.
That also, those kids are in the same system, but it's not this, not quite the same. They're kind of like the next tier down.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so I'm going to equate it kind of to hockey. There's like an elite so like my son plays in the Bay State Breakers, my daughter as well. It's not as centralized. Like the Bruins don't have anything to do with the youth hockey programs, right? But there's
Right.
but you're saying there's an elite team, and then there's kind of like the tier 1 team.
Exactly. And the big difference with soccer guys is you don't typically have the NCAA pathway to Europe.
Okay.
The pathway to Europe right now is usually controlled by academy. So it goes from academy to first club to then once you're in the first team in the club, then it opens up the pathway to go to the next level of soccer, wherever that may be, whether it's Europe or Spain, Spain or England,
Right.
depending on, which league, or Germany. Those are usually the top 3 leagues you want to get into.
So the path for your son is either that path that you just described, if he's good enough, and I don't know
Correct.
if he is, and or college.
Or college. So what happened last year, since Rob took over, every kid who was of college age on the team either went pro or went D1 with the full ride. Every single kid.
You're kidding me.
No, and now, like, the team my son's on, the pathway is most of the kids are on the pro pathway, and then, obviously college would be the backup, essentially.
Amazing. College is now the backup.
Which is kind of nuts. Yeah, and I never would have thought that coming up, raising my kid his whole life. You're going to college, but if you have the opportunity to play first team and potentially make it to Europe, you only get your youth once.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage of that.
So if I'm hearing you right, your son, and we keep calling me son. What's your son's name?
Tito.
Tico?
Yeah, Tito.
Tito.
Yeah, Robert.
T-I-T-O.
T-I-T-O. He's Robert the Third, but Robert Tito. So we call him Tito.
I like that.
I love
Yep.
that.
Tito.
That's
I
it.
even like the way he says it. He says it better than,
I said it with the Spanish
just
accent.
like so smooth, right? Like I would
married
butcher
to a
him. Like,
Mexican.
what's his name? Tito?
Right, I'm married to a Mexican,
Tito.
right?
Right? It's so smooth.
I've had a lot of practice.
Yeah, yelling at him. Clean up your room. So for Tito, his path, path right now that he's working towards is that first team.
Correct.
Then Europe.
Then your first team, and then Europe. It may take 2-3 years of playing in the system before he's ready to make the leap.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the pathway that he wants to go, and he's on that track.
So that's exciting.
It is, yeah.
So how many years? So when can he play pro? Could he play pro now if he's good enough?
He can play pro now here in the MLS. He can't go to Europe typically until he's 18.
Okay.
You have to be of working age over there.
Okay.
The
But
legal
if he's good enough, he can go play for the for the Revs.
Oh yeah, he
right
can play
now.
first team Revs right now. I mean, right now there's conversations about him moving to the Division 2 team, so the second men's team,
just below
the first.
So
team.
So again, I live in the hockey world, right? So that's like the AHL, which is like NHL, AHL.
Yep.
And then kind of there's a whole bunch
Correct.
of leagues below that.
That's the conversation right now to try to figure out, because the difference with him, a lot of the kids on his team, they don't go to school anymore. Yeah, all these kids, This
is an amazing education. This is by the way, and I say this, I think I say this every time I sit down for this podcast. So we've been working together for 4 or 5 years.
Right.
I'm learning all this new stuff about you, and I love it.
We're just running and ripping there, doing deals, man. We don't have time to talk about the other stuff.
So most of the kids are homeschooled.
No, so they're all online schools. So what happened was when this whole Revs and this MLS academies came up, they basically are pooling kids from all over the country. So half of my son's teammates are not from Massachusetts.
Okay.
They board in Foxborough. They have a whole residence program for them, and then
is it on the campus at
No,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Some of them are, like, Philly has one where it's like right enclosed and within the club. Whereas us, it's houses. They have houses in Foxborough where the kids live. So we got kids from California, Florida, and
are they
different
boarding
places.
with families, like host families?
Correct. They're boarding with host families, usually affiliated with the team in some capacity.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
All
and
right.
then what happens there is, for schooling, they either do online school on their own in the house, or there's another spin-off program by another guy who's affiliated with Revs loosely called COE, Center of Excellence, up in Lawrence.
Okay.
So they'll bus a bunch of those kids up to Lawrence every day to go to a soccer school. Yeah, so there's a lot. Yeah, that's like the pathway.
Amazing.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
Yeah, so these kids are playing there and going here. They wanted my son to do it, but we want him to finish at Dexter, because if there's one thing we can give him, it's a great high school education, especially if he decides to go pro and maybe do college later.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Dexter's an incredible school. So he's in school 7, a regular school day.
Correct.
I mean, you must be pulling him out at times to do some stuff, and they understood. But he's not playing any Dexter sports.
Can't. They know MLS will not allow it. They do not allow the kids to play school sports.
Are you? And I don't want to get too personal, but are you paying for him to go there, or do they pay you?
I'm paying him for him to go there. Now, if he played there, we could probably get a scholarship.
No. Forget about Dexter.
Yep.
Forget about Dexter.
Oh, Revs.
Revs.
Yeah. No. All the kids is free.
It's free.
So
They
program,
handpick them.
They handpick kids, and this is why, like, back in the day, the reputation of soccer was that it was a white elite sport, right?
Yeah.
Pay to play, the whole nine, and that's how
Right.
it used to be. But once the clubs got into the mix, they only want the best.
Right.
So his team is totally diverse, kids from different parts of the country, different races, different backgrounds. It truly is a representation of who the best are in the region and who they can attract.
Doesn't matter, white, black, brown.
Doesn't matter. We got it all. We got kids from Dorchester on the team, kids from Newton on the team, and everywhere in between.
That's all. That's great.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But that's a tough balance for him between school and this. This is a full-time job, it sounds like.
It is. And there's days, guys, where he's just done.
Yeah.
He's exhausted. And it's on us as parents to really manage that and make sure he's getting enough rest and speaking with the coaches, speaking with his teachers to just make sure everyone's on the same page. But it's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot.
Yep.
I don't even know how we got there. Oh, because Europe.
Yeah.
So you travel to Europe because of the soccer.
I've been there many times for soccer, man. It's been eye-opening because the thing that people don't realize about soccer is that at this age, like 15, 16, 17, U.S. teams, we can compete with any international team. They don't dominate. Like recently, one of my son's teammates on the U17 national team, they tied England.
Yeah.
But what happens is because Europe's pathway to the pro is a lot more established and developed, those kids, once it's time for them to go into the second division and third division teams over there, they're developing a lot faster than in our second division. And that's where the gap.
And then that's why they get so much better.
Correct. And that's what COE is trying to bridge that gap.
And they call it Center of Excellence.
Yeah, it's a great program. Yeah, they also have a spinoff of that called Pro Project. It's run by the same guys, but for kids who don't want to go, can't go to the COE program because it's limited. They have Pro Project for everyone else, and that's after school.
Got it.
And they do that every 7 days a week, guys. They got weight training. You can kind of pick and choose what sessions you want to go to. It's pretty interesting, guys.
That is interesting, but it's a full-time job for these kids, and
right.
There's got to be some concern. I would think that they're kind of missing out on a little bit of the high school experience.
That's the downside, Dan. Yeah, the social side. It's their experience is very different, and this is why we really want our son to at least have that in some capacity and just be in a high school, just from just socially, so he develops.
Yeah, that's important because if you're sitting there staring at a computer and then you get up and go play with a soccer ball and that's all you ever do,
correct,
you're not going to learn any life skills, and God forbid you got injured or it didn't work out.
That's it. Yep.
But you're okay. I mean, I guess he's going to be making money, right? Because if he does get sold to Europe, he's going to be making dough over there.
Correct. Even if he's on the first team here, he'll make a decent salary. At least 6 figures.
As a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Correct. Those 2 kids that signed, I don't know what their contracts are, but I know they're probably over $100,000 because both of them got signed early, and I believe they were making $80,000 when they were 16. Both of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Playing right, exactly.
At Mary Lou's.
16-year-old kids.
Yeah, making $8 an hour. Right, working for tips.
Right, it blew my mind, but they did have contracts early. Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of nuts. Yep.
Well, let's back it up a little bit here. I think we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but
good, man.
That's okay. So Robert Nichols, where did it all start? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Dorchester, born and raised. I lived in Roxbury for a little bit as well in my life, and it all started then. With I guess we go way back.
Go. I want to go back to who did you? Your brothers and sisters?
I did. I even go back further. So my family is originally from the Caribbean. My grandfather came here and fought in World War II when he was 19 years old from Barbados.
Okay.
And that was his pathway to citizenship.
Fighting, being in the Army.
In the Navy.
In the Navy.
In the Navy. Yeah. He actually turned 103 2 days ago.
Still alive?
Still alive and kicking, man. And ticking well, man. Fully coherent. We can have a conversation just like this with him, man.
Really?
Which is nuts. Yeah. So I pray I get those genes. But
that's amazing.
Yeah. So he came here and moved to Cambridge after the war and met my grandmother, whose family was from Barbados as well. And they had 11 kids.
Was there a Barbados community that they
got it.
both? Okay.
You know how it goes when immigrants came to America, right? The story's all the same. You go with your relatives, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, where folks are. So there was a huge Bayesian population in Cambridge.
Okay.
So he joined that and met my grandmother at church. And the families knew each other already, and they had 11 kids. My dad was number 6 out of 11, the middle child.
11 kids.
11 kids back in the day.
My God.
I don't know how we did it. I got 4 and I'm struggling. Yeah, he was a postman. And then he had a tailor shop both at the same time.
Okay.
And it used to be, I found out recently, he used to be the guy going around the neighborhood fixing people's houses and all of that. So
he was doing anything to earn a dollar.
I think, man, that's where I get it from. I guess, man. It trickled down to me, but. Yeah, so my dad, he ended up meeting my mom in Cambridge as well.
So
at church,
so is that
too.
where? So they stayed in Cambridge and raised the 11 kids.
They stayed in Cambridge and raised the 11 kids, and one of my aunts still lives in that house to this very
this day.
She bought it from my grandparents and still lives there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. So we have Thanksgiving there every year.
So you go back
And,
every year. To,
oh,
and
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep. So a lot of history, a lot of family, and it's you got 11 aunts and uncles, 10 plus your dad makes 11.
Yeah.
It's a lot of family around, guys.
All the time.
Yeah.
Lots of
absolutely.
everybody's your cousin.
That's right. You go to City Hall, you go to 1010, you go here, you go like, hey, there's your cousin, there's your cousin,
Yeah.
man. It's crazy.
Stop thinking you're lying. Like, no way. They can't all be your cousins. But you could have upwards of 30, 40 cousins.
No, I do, because all of my aunts and uncles had kids, every one of them. And then, they had kids, and then not to mention, my grandmother's siblings and grandfather's siblings and their kids who were locally,
Right,
and then,
right.
their nephews and nieces.
You just
so.
stole everybody.
Correct, man. It's kind of nuts, but it
love
definitely
that.
helps.
I
Yeah.
love it too. I think it's great. Yeah. No, it's helped us. It's helped us in business for sure.
Yep.
So what do you have for brothers and sisters?
So my mom and dad met in Cambridge and had 2 kids, just me and my sister Lydia, who we both grew up in Dorchester. And then my parents split when I was 8, and my mom had 2 more kids. So I have another brother and sister, half brother and sister that are 10 years behind me.
So 10 years behind. So that's
Yeah.
another. I have my oldest brother is 11 years older than me.
Yep.
So it's hard to get to know them as you're growing
Right.
up,
It's
right?
totally different. Like
Yeah.
they were in New York too, so like
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
really get to know them until they were in their 20s, and one of my sisters came here to go to Northeastern
Yep.
and live with us. So
Yep. Then
I
you got
finally
to know her.
get to know her, which
Yeah.
is great. Yeah,
And
great
that's
experience.
that's similar to
Yep.
my parents didn't split, but my brother went to private school. He went to Milton Academy. So he was gone at 14. I was 3.
Right.
And then he went to Boston College and on to New York, and he moved back when he was like 30.
Right.
And that's when I really got to know him. I mean,
Yep.
I knew him, right, but not knew him.
Correct.
And that was, that's what 25, 26 years ago. So your family moves from Cambridge to Dorchester?
My dad, yeah. So he moved from Cambridge to Dorchester. A few of my uncles, they actually started buying some real estate in Dorchester.
Okay.
And where I was born, it was a 6 family actually owned by my dad and my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was kind of, they got in and kind of got hit by the crash of the 80s and sold everything off, and my dad never really got back into it.
Got it.
Yep.
So he dipped his toe in kind of
Right.
at the wrong time.
Correct.
And what was his profession, your dad?
My dad was a union electrician since the age of 18.
So 103 over here?
Local 103.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right
I got
there,
an
right on
uncle
Freeport Street.
those are tough guys.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Local 103 guys are tough
You got it.
guys.
You got
They
it.
work and they're tough.
Yep.
So do you go to Boston Public Schools?
I did. I went to John D. O'Brien, a.k.a. Boston Tech. They had changed the name, I think, like 3 or 4 years before I got there.
Okay.
And after going to O'Brien, I went to University of Connecticut. And
But you played sports.
I did. So in high school, I ran track and I played football. And then I wanted to go D1, right? I had a bunch of like D3 offers.
football, you
for
mean?
football, yeah.
Yeah,
D3 and D2 offers, which I'm like, you know what? I believe in my abilities. I know I can play D1. My coach actually said, he told my best friend, he's like, you can play D1, but Rob would never play D1. And I don't even know why he said it, because he knew like what my goals were, and he never really believed in me, right?
Your football
My
coach.
high school football coach never believed in me.
What
He
position
didn't.
were you?
I played, in high school, you play both sides of the ball.
yeah.
So I was a defensive back, and I played running back.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would never get plays called, and like never really
got
had
the
a
ball.
chance to do anything, right? So I had a few interceptions, pick sixes, and stuff like that. And when we play a bump team, he'd let me carry the ball, but he never, gave me a shot when it counted most. So yeah.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. Like regardless of what
Yeah.
you think, I know what I'm capable of. So I went to UConn and walked on. And,
So you walked on at UConn.
and made the
So
team.
there's obviously the name of the show is Everybody Needs a Nudge, right? So
Right.
that's like his negative behavior was a nudge for you,
Exactly.
right? It motivated you
Correct.
to go and say, essentially, hey, go pound sand, buddy. I can play at this level.
Correct. And I was the only kid from my team that did.
Really?
The only one. No one else.
Was the team any good?
What's that? UConn?
No,
High school?
Yeah,
We were okay. The next year they actually went to the Super Bowl.
once you left.
Once
So
we
maybe
left.
the coach was right.
Maybe he was, man. Yeah, no, we
you
had a good
stink,
team.
Robert. Get out of here. We're going Super Bowl.
We had a great team. We really did. We
Yeah.
came close, but we didn't quite make it. But the next year, they edged us out, man.
Yeah.
Easier competition.
Yeah, that's right. All the good players were gone.
Right.
They all went to D1. So you walk on. Why did you choose UConn?
I'll be honest, like at the time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, Dan. And I was doing my research. I had to look at what my family could afford, but I wanted to go out of state. I just wanted a fresh start. As a kid growing up in the inner city, I had seen enough of the same thing, man. It was like, and I knew there was more out there.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go to USC, you know, back in the day. But there was no way. Yeah, exactly, right? and I could have got it. I had the grades and everything to
So
get
you did
in.
well in school?
I did well in school.
Okay.
Yeah. I was always a good student. And
Did you have to work at it, or did it come easy to you?
honestly, Dan, it came easy.
Yeah.
I won't lie, because college didn't come easy, and I'll get into that.
Yeah, okay.
And I had to get my ass in gear.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go to USC, but the reality was, on a union electrician salary, me trying to even get a plane ticket back and forth,
Right.
and having support, and then looking at the tuition with the financial aid packages, it just wasn't going to work. So
Yeah.
I settled on something I could get back and forth, driving
You could
or on
drive
the bus.
to, yep, on
You
the
got
bus,
it.
yeah.
So I went to UConn. It was the #1 public university at the time. Tuition was pretty affordable. And because, again, for a kid who didn't know what he wanted to do, I wasn't going to go in a ton of debt at that
Right.
time or put my parents in debt,
Right.
just kind of messing around. But yeah, so I went
Which a
there
lot of
because
people
that.
do.
Yeah, I was not that
But
kid,
that's
man.
a pretty
Yeah.
again. That's a pretty heady way to think, right?
Yep.
A lot of kids would just say, "Well, I want to go here, and we're gonna whatever we got to pay, we'll pay it, and we'll
Yep.
go into debt, and I'll figure that out later."
Correct,
Right?
man.
But you had the foresight to not do that.
Yeah, I think it was, during that era, like I think in general, especially families without a lot of money, we were just very price sensitive and price conscious of things. You always are looking
all the
at
time,
the price.
you mean?
Right, all the time. In everything we did.
So there's another
Yeah.
little nudge in life, right?
Correct.
You just sort of your surroundings made you cost conscious.
Always. You got it.
Yeah, and it affected your decision on where you went to school.
Yep, correct. You
So
got it, Dan.
so you go to UConn.
Yep.
Which, by the way, you're the second UConn grad to be on the podcast. Mike Flaherty also went to UConn, Mr.
Nice.
Hockey.
Good
Mr.
stuff.
Hockey.
Yeah. So you go to UConn
Yep.
and you walk on.
I walked on, tried out for me and another kid. Because what happened was initially I was kind of like, am I going to do this? And I'm like, you know what? Just go for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't come when I should have to try out. So I actually had like a one-on-one trial with another kid who wanted to try when the regular kids came to campus.
So you didn't go like in the spring or
I
summer?
didn't go early.
Oh, got
No,
it,
no.
got
So
it.
me and this kid, we went and had to do like a one-on-one tryout with one of the trainers, man. It was intense. It was hell, but I'm like, one way or the other, if I'm going to do this, I'm getting in here. So,
Right.
And the other kid didn't make it, but I made it.
The other kid didn't make
The other
it.
kid didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great experience. I was on the team up until my sophomore year. And I realized at that point, I had my girlfriend and I were kind of on the rocks. She's like, "You're not spending enough time with me." Wasn't the right decision in hindsight, man. You got to have the right woman by your side.
Yep.
But I ended up, after my sophomore year, just kind of saying, you know what, I'm going to hang it up and just focus on my studies and getting out of here and figuring out what I want to do with my life after that.
Well, I think that happens to a lot of people because the commitment of of any college athlete is tremendous.
Yeah, 40 hours a week. And because I walked on, I wasn't on scholarship. I could have earned a scholarship, I believe, by my senior year because there were kids on the team. I was better than them that were starters by senior year.
Yep.
So it was one of those situations where if I had stuck with it, I think I would have done really well. But while I was on the team, guys, I was working too.
Yeah.
'Cause I needed income.
Right.
You're actually not allowed to work. So I was kind of sneaking and working 20 hours a week at Stop and Shop while I was at UConn, guys.
So you're working at
Yeah.
Stop and Shop 20 hours a week. You're
Right.
playing football.
It was like 40 hours a week
right,
of football.
and then you're going to
activity.
class.
And then going to class. So it was a lot. It was really a lot.
Yeah, you don't even have time to be social.
Correct.
I mean,
That's
you
it.
got 80 hours of gone. Right?
You
By the
got it,
time
Dan,
you
yeah.
turn around to be social, you got to go to bed because you got to go back to work or you got to go back to football.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the coaches saw me working there once. He could not believe it. He's like, "How the hell are you doing this? Like,
Really?
with everything else we do here." He didn't say anything. He was one of the trainers.
Yeah.
But he was just stunned. He was like, "What the hell? Like, oh my
Right.
goodness! Like, I didn't know you were doing this, man. I'll keep it between us, but I don't know how you do it."
Yeah.
So
Yep.
nothing's changed.
Right. Exactly.
I guess not, Amy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
try to
Root
cram,
beer.
cram a
We don't
lot
know who
in.
Amy is on
there
this
we
show.
go. There we go.
Who's Amy?
Who is Amy? Where's she at? Oh man.
So you were working 80 hours in college
I
essentially
was, yeah.
between academics, sports, and then Stop and Shop, and then you stay at Stop and Shop for a while,
Correct.
right? So you
Yep.
graduate from UConn.
I did. While I was at UConn, I was in an internship program with Stop and Shop through a program in Boston called Bottom Line, which helps kids get into college, helps you get a job, and helps you start your career. So you intern, and then hopefully it's a pathway to your career.
Yep.
So I had that relationship through Bottom Line, and a great organization, by the way. Look them up. They do a lot for the inner city.
Bottom Line, another great little nudge in your life right there.
Bottomline.org, 100%. That was a great nudge. They literally changed the trajectory of my life. No question
really?
about it. Yeah, absolutely. Just with if you go back to me in high school, neither of my parents went to college then.
Yeah.
My dad was a union electrician. My mom was a hairstylist and in early childhood education. And I was the first in my family to go to college and graduate.
Yep.
So in my immediate family, my aunts and uncles, they all went to college and stuff. But, my dad did go, but he didn't finish.
Yep. Okay.
It wasn't for him.
Yep.
It wasn't for him. But bottom line really helped just streamline the process. SAT prep. I was a smart kid, but you got to prep. You still got to put in the work. You know what I mean?
They focused you in.
They focused me in. They helped me with financial aid, filling out the FAFSA forms and all the applications and waivers and all of that. So yeah, that was huge. And
they gave you the guidance that you needed if you have a parent or a guardian that's not experienced in that world.
Yep.
Bottom line was able to help you out with that stuff.
They bridged that gap for so many inner city high school students.
Wow.
And they still do it to today. It started with I was the second class to graduate. It was like probably 30 of us in there. Now they help thousands of kids every year.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah. No, it's a great group, great organization. But they also got me into Stop and Shop, where when I graduated from college, I was one of the few kids in my class that had a job ready to go.
Okay.
And so I started off there as a store manager or assistant store manager. And then after 3 years of being in the stores, they transitioned me to logistics and warehousing. And then after that, I spent another 3 or 4 years in the corporate headquarters here in Quincy.
Okay.
Yeah. And
so that was your career path.
That was the path. And I was on the fast track. I was one of the people they told me, like, if you stick around and here's your path, like to the executive level. But along the way, man, I got the real estate itch.
Yeah.
One of my buddies who was my coworker there, one time we had like our meeting. This was my second year at the company. The kid walks in, I'm like 22 years old, right? He's like a little older than me. He's like 25. Comes in with like a 3-piece suit with the vest, everything, with the briefcase, and all of us are dressed in our regular stuff. And the manager who was running the meeting is like, man, you look like $1 million, buddy. What's going on? He's like, no, nothing, man. I'm just having a great day. So he just happens to sit next to me with the briefcase, and I'm like, what is this? This the Black Trump? Like, who is this guy, man?
Black Trump.
There's a different era back then.
Right.
He was the real estate guy.
Right, you can say that.
So he comes over and is like, hey, brother, I got to show you something. And he whips out a check for $10,000. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, did you rob a bank? How'd you get that money? He said, man, it's that real estate. I'm telling you, you got to get into real estate. And so he had just had a closing. He was working at Century 21 part-time.
Yep.
And had just had a closing and made $10,000 selling a triple decker back then.
Right.
And I was like, wow. And at the time, I was only making like $30,000 a year. So
right.
I'm like, you just made a third of our salary in one deal. No wonder you look like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And,
he went out and blew it on suits and shoes.
Yeah, but it was one of those things which just kind of blew my mind that you can make that kind of money in one transaction, because I'd never seen that before. And he had kind of started mentoring me and telling me.
So what
about
year is
becoming an
this?
agent. That was 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, that was 2003.
So you're into 20th year now. You're into 20th year in real estate.
Correct. You got it. You got it, man. Yeah.
So this guy starts mentoring you.
Correct.
What's his name?
Farouk Brown. He's actually one of my agents now as well, under my license.
Is he really?
But he's an investor, big time. Like, he owns a lot, and that was kind of where he was mentoring me along. That would just happen to be a sale he did.
Yeah.
And then he and his mom had bought a bunch of stuff in the early 90s, the two of them, when he got out of college in 99, actually late 90s. I went into college in 99, so he had me by about 4 years.
Yeah.
But they started selling, because his mentor said by 05, start selling. And 06, I bought my first one in 03, right after, kind of working with him and talking him down in Taunton. And, he told me, he's like, Rob, you shouldn't buy that house. And he was right. And he told me when to sell it, and I didn't sell, but he had sold all his stuff and cashed out. And
So
him and
he
his mom
knew.
made a killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the first one. But, you live and learn.
But there's another great nudge, right? So
Yeah.
he gets you into real estate. So your first deal was in Taunton, you said?
First acquisition.
And it didn't
in
go
Taunton.
well?
Didn't go well, man. Honestly, I got caught up in the crash.
Yeah.
The very first one, it was a 2-family. House was okay, but I had an adjustable rate mortgage. I was making good money for the first like 3-4 years. Making like $400 a month in my mind. I'm like, it's passive income.
Yep.
I was gonna always appreciate I could refi, and I got caught in the end. Couldn't refi out. I had to end up letting it go.
Yeah.
I just walked away from it.
Well, it's amazing, right? You're now a very successful real estate professional, but everybody seems to have those stories, right? The one that either you but what do they always say? The best lessons are always the most expensive.
100%.
Right? So you pay, you could go to, and you're doing an incredible job now of educating people that want to get into real estate, but there's no better educator than the business itself.
100%.
Right?
Man.
You could sit in front of somebody and you could tell them all these things, and maybe they retain half of it, and maybe they write down the other half, but the only real educator is to get into a deal and do a deal, right? And you hope that, one, you have a good mentor, which you did.
I just didn't listen.
And then, but that was the second thing I was going to say. And then, two, you hope that you listen.
Correct.
Right? Because if you don't listen,
Yep.
then you get people think they're smarter than their mentor or someone that's been down the road that's paid for that education. Because I guarantee if you ask Farouk, he'd say, I know because I did a deal in 1984 or whatever, or my
Right.
mom did a deal and she got
Yep.
smoked.
That's
So
it.
if you're out there and you have a mentor, listen to your mentor.
And
okay, that's
I
all I'm
tell
saying.
I tell everybody
Respect
this.
your elders too.
I love it.
I'm your elder, so you better respect me.
You love that.
I do.
By a couple of years.
Yeah, but I got you. One day, it doesn't matter. Respect your elders. Remember
There
that.
you go, man. No, and I always tell like new investors, right? Intelligence is overrated because especially when it comes to engaging in something you've never done before.
Yep.
It's only risky if you've never done it. That's a quote. I think Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, one of those guys.
Yeah.
They're known for saying that.
That's a great
And-
quote.
And because of that, I tell folks like you can be the smartest person out here, but if you haven't done it before and you don't have the skills in this arena, you've got to trust someone who's done it before, and they will show you the way. But if you try to use your intelligence, it will fail you. You might guess and be right. You might get lucky, but why leave it to chance when there's a clear pathway to success?
Well, I mean, I like to equate everything to sports, right, and mostly to hockey. But I mean, think about it. If you could be the best goalie in hockey, and then you go try to play center,
Right.
and you're going to fall on your face, right? You could be the smartest scientist in the world. You try to come over to real estate, you're going to fall on your face.
Fish out of water.
You
Yep.
could be the great. You could be the Black Trump,
Right.
Right, and you try to be a scientist.
Right.
You're gonna fall on your face because you're super smart, but you're not smart in that arena, right? So that's just a great, great piece of advice. Like, don't just because you're smart doesn't mean you're gonna be successful.
Right.
Learn from somebody that's smart in the field that you're trying to be a pro in, right? At the end of the day,
That's it, Dan. Yeah, real intelligence is understanding that you don't know it all.
that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you gotta know what you don't know.
Yes, right. Yep.
So that's in. So how long do you sort of run the parallels of Stop and Shop and the real estate?
So I'll
thing?
tell you what happened. So I was 23 and I bought my first house in 04. And that was going all right. But I just started getting really, really fed up with just the whole structure of the company. Things changed. The CEO changed. So the culture changed. And
Yeah.
the boss that I had at the time was very tough. He was old school. I call him a dinosaur. Great guy, but he just was set in his ways,
Yeah.
And so there was no flexibility. And I just felt like I was in a box. So I ended up getting my real estate license in 05, a year after I bought my first house, primarily because the agent who represented me on my first transaction was so bad, guys. Like, it was horrible. Yet she got a check for $15,000. So
Right.
first I saw my buddy Fruit make 10. This lady's making 15 for horrible service. I'm like, listen, if I can do half as good a job as she done, which I know I can, I'm gonna kill it in real estate as
Right.
an agent. And
Right.
so that got me going.
Another great
Yep.
nudge in life,
Yeah,
right?
correct. I saw that HUD. I'm like, what? She made that much?
She stunk at this.
And she was horrible, right? So I got my license and I was moonlighting as an agent, and I just started being like the real estate prophet. I'm out here telling you got to get into real estate. This is the time. And I got a lot of my friends into real estate at the time, and I helped them get their first houses. And during that era, guys, we remember like the loans were just it was easy money.
Oh, you're
Anybody
giving it
qualified,
away.
right?
You're giving
So
it away.
My first year, I was working for a small real estate office in Braintree. I was the number one sales guy, right?
Yeah.
I had my best month. I had brought in $40,000 into the company as a young, kid,
Right.
making $36,000 a year at that time. I had a little raise, but like
Right.
I made more in real estate. I brought in more in real estate than I did at
For the
Stop and
whole
Shop.
year, for the whole year.
right?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
That I did working there, and so like kind of fast forward to 2008. Just had a really rough day that day with the boss. It was just like, and it's funny, like all these experiences that I never thought it was like negative experiences that pushed me kind of to move in a different direction. So I came home fed up from work, just had a rough day with my boss and kind of what was going on at the company. And I told my wife, I'm done. Like, I'm just fed up with this. She was like, well, if you're so frustrated and mad, go find a job.
Yeah, do something about it.
Do something about
which
it.
I
So
love. I
find
think
another
you've told
job.
me that story before, which I
Right.
love. That she was like, "Go do some stuff.
Correct.
Stop just sitting here clamoring and being a baby. Go do
Right.
something."
So I went on Craigslist that day and started looking for jobs. And, again, who goes on Craigslist? Back in the day, it was different, right? The internet was still kind of young.
Yeah, murderers
Less-
go on.
less
Yeah,
creepy.
And now it's like Craigslist has a bad
creepy
rap.
murderers go
Yeah.
on Craigslist. Yeah.
But I went on there and it was an ad for a Dorchester real estate specialist. Never forget it. That's what they were looking for. Who better than me? Born and raised in
Right.
Dorchester. I was already selling houses in Dorchester. And I was a new construction company looking for someone to basically sell all of the new construction they were building over on Norfolk Street. So I went, I interviewed. They were interviewing like 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
But what I had done the night before, because I really wanted that job. I was like,
Yeah.
I got to get the hell
This
out
is
of
like
here,
perfect
man.
for me. This is yeah.
Stop and Show was great. I met a lot of great people and mentors for that business and people I still talk to today. But I really wanted to be in real estate, so no knock against them. And they gave me a great opportunity.
Sure.
But it was time, and so I prepared an entire presentation. I stayed up till like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, called out of work sick, prepared this presentation for these guys of all my sales and my expertise and the Dorchester market and all of that. And all these other guys were just walking in the interview like, on the fly, like your typical stuff. But I'm like, nah, I'm gonna knock these guys' socks off. And I got the job. He called me like within an hour, like, you're hired.
Really?
Yeah, because no one else
love
did that.
I mean, that's just great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you put the time in. You wanted something. You put the work into it.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that launches you
right
under the trajectory that
I'm here now.
Yeah.
And so what happened with that company is the founder, Eric Gilliland, he was a commercial banker. He had actually funded a lot of the original hotels in the Seaport. He was a finance guy, real estate commercial lender, and the money he used to launch his new construction company, that's how he made it.
Got it.
So I was able to kind of work with him, and as it was 2008, right before the crash, so it was horrible timing.
Yeah,
so
real bad.
What happened? One of the partners, was 3 partners, cleaned out the bank account and took off and went to North Carolina. They didn't find him for like 5 years, but they caught up with him. So they had to restart, refinance, and try to figure things out. But by the end of the year, there were no sales happening, so we had to transition to rentals. And the partner who left was a GC. And so they were like, Rob, we trust you. You're going to, we know you're there every day. Can you just kind of start overseeing the project for us as you bring in these new guys to finish?
You mean like the construction projects?
Correct, because it was a 21 unit we had. We had a 9 unit we had to close out, both in Dorchester.
Yeah.
We had some stuff up in Gloucester. We had some stuff down in Florida. We had some stuff in New Hampshire. We had some stuff in Worcester.
Okay.
So all day for like 2 years, I'm just going to these projects. I'm dealing with these contractors. I'm dealing with the finance guys.
What an education.
Trust me, I just got thrown in there. And I learned so much during that. And that was really the catalyst that really is embodies everything I do now.
Yeah.
It was because of my experience working with him and having him mentor me, because by 2010, it all kind of crashed, and a lot of loan workout specialists came in, but the portfolio kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
And he went back to commercial lending and brought me with him.
Okay.
And so that was how I really learned commercial financing. And then hard money was kind of like
what's
on the
this
side.
guy's name?
His name's Eric Gilliland.
Jeez, he's a big nudge in your life.
Oh, huge. Yeah, forever grateful. Forever grateful.
Absolutely.
But, I know he's a commercial banker still.
Got it.
Just kind of doing his thing in that lane now. But yeah, no, he was a huge influence for me, and really, like I said, taught me how to look at real estate from a different view. I mean, the clients that he had, guys, at that time were like literally billionaires. We were working on like these guys you read about in Forbes, trying to refinance a 300-unit portfolio down in Florida.
Right.
And the issue during that era was that those guys were too big.
Yeah.
The banks, I'd be talking to these presidents of these banks down there, and they'd say, if we lend with this guy and he defaults,
we're done.
The bank will fail. So like we talk to a VP first and tell them who the client was. They get all excited.
Yeah.
Then when they go to the president, every time.
Too big.
Too big. Exactly. Yeah, too big. So that was kind of like a tough thing, during just that era. But again, I'm forever grateful to Eric, and I
So how long were you with him?
I was with him for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he went back to kind of working as a bank manager, commercial lending. And I was on my own, man. So I had actually started my first fix and flip in 2009. And then 2010 we started going, and by 2011 when Eric and I, he kind of went back to what he was doing just on the lending side on his own. I was on my own.
And you at that point you were just doing fix and flips?
Just doing fix and flips. Still had the brokerage. I never had shut my brokerage down, so it was able to still make some money.
And so 2000, this is 11.
Yeah.
So you've got at least one kid at this point.
I had two
kids at this point.
At that point, yes.
Just making money on. You have your brokerage.
Yep, making some money on the brokerage, and I'll be honest, the fix and flips carried us through that time. Yeah, it really did. That's what it was.
So that was about when I started. So I opened my own firm in 2009. With a focus on loan workouts and loan modifications,
short sales and all that, right?
Short sales, doing all that negotiations with the banks, which turned into relationships with the loan officers. So I started doing all closings, but at the same time, right around 2011 is when I started doing fix and flips, and that carried me for probably 4 or 5 years.
Correct.
Up until when we really opened the doors here in 2015.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, we went strong. So 2011, 2012, 2013, I had a partner. He and I split. And then from there, by like 2013 to 2015, I was just kind of brokering deals and wholesaling and stuff. And then by 2015, my wife and I took over the business.
Okay.
And that's really when we got going.
And where did you meet your wife?
I met my wife at Stop and Shop, Dan.
No way.
Yeah.
You can never go to another grocery store the rest of your... If you're not shopping at Stop and Shop, then shame on you, Robert, because you should be paying double. right?
Invaluable.
Oh, my
Invaluable,
God.
man. Priceless, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she was working as a business analyst, and I was working in procurement in corporate, and we had met just through mutual connections in the company.
So
Yeah.
at Stop and Shop, that's
Stop and
amazing. You
Shop,
left
you
that
got
out.
it.
I can't believe you left that out.
Yeah,
You're talking about Farouk and your bad bosses,
Listen,
and you
I
don't
knew-
even
I
mention
knew,
your
I
wife.
knew it was coming.
All
I
right,
knew it was
okay,
coming.
fair
Trust me.
enough.
And I thought you knew that already. Actually,
I
yeah.
probably did, but I have thousands and
the
thousands
the
of
audience
listeners.
has to know. We gotta tell them.
Yeah,
Inquiring
my
minds want
sister's
to know.
dying to know actually.
Oh, man.
so you meet her. So now in 2000. So how old is your youngest?
My youngest now, at that time,
Right now.
is she just turned 9 yesterday.
All right, so this
Yeah.
is right around. So she was born in 14.
She was born in 14. You got it.
So
yeah.
so at in 2015, 2016,
Yep.
you've got 4 kids.
I have 4 now. Yeah. Exactly.
Somewhere in the ages of what? 7
Just
to born.
Yeah, just born up to 7, I think. Yeah.
6
yeah.
or 7.
Yeah.
Um,
You got it.
and what at that point you've got fix and flips going on.
Yes.
You've got the brokerage going on.
Yep.
You get into lending.
Yeah, lending was always there, Dan, right? Like I kind of took it for granted, like just my understanding of commercial lending. I just, in my mind, I was never in any other environment with investors or people in real estate. So I just thought everybody knew that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
I'm
they don't.
Yeah, every investor knows this. And one of my agents now, he actually works for a large national commercial lender. And we have conversations now, and he's just like, Rob, how did you learn all this stuff? Because
Yeah.
we talk about what he's working on,
Sure.
and I kind of advise him and mentor him in some capacity on certain things.
Giving it back. I like
Correct.
that.
And-
little
yeah.
reverse nudge. We call
Right.
that a reverse nudge.
There we go. Yeah. But and I told him, the story, like how I learned and was trained, and he's like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not, most investors don't kind of have the depth on the commercial
Right.
lending side.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's what's interesting to me about you is that you have an understanding of a deal from every angle, whether it's, the real estate brokerage angle, the lending angle, the actual doing of the deal, right? Undoing a bad deal. Like you've kind of done it all over the last, 20 years.
20
We figured that out, right?
Yeah.
20 years.
Even on the construction side, like
Yeah.
all of that, like I've been on site, like literally, especially during like 2015, 16, when my brokerage was kind of okay, but I really was in the flipping.
Yeah.
I was on job sites every single day, like
Yeah.
cracking the whip, making sure things are getting done. One crew slowing something down, I'm bringing in another crew to motivate them.
Right.
Like, oh, you guys are supposed to do that. Like carpenters on the outside and inside, they had the whole job. Just take it away. Like, no, you guys are still working in here. No problem. I got another guy coming outside.
Right.
to do the siding.
Right.
And it motivates these guys.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's money.
It's money that they lost.
That's right. And that they were
yeah,
counting on.
Correct.
But
correct.
that, what always happens is, right, they get the contract and then they're always chasing the next deal, the next job because they have to, right? I mean,
Exactly.
they got to feed their families.
Yep.
But then
you
they
gotta
start
keep 'em honest,
they
man.
start borrowing time, not necessarily money, but they borrow time, right? Oh, instead of sending 3 guys, I'm only going to send 2 guys because I'm going to send a guy over here to start that job, to prep that,
Right.
so that there's no downtime, which is a hard management for them, right? Because they don't have enough guys to really run 2 jobs, but they got to keep kind of 2 jobs.
Correct. At a certain stage, to
Yeah.
kinda keep the money flow.
Yeah,
coming in.
but then it affects your bottom line
exactly.
or the investor's bottom line, which then delays, how long it takes to get the job done, which the lender gets all mad right now because now when you need an extension and that costs you more money, right? So it's just, the reality of the time, how time affects the profit at the end of the deal. It's
Right.
time's the most valuable thing.
It is, Dan. No, and that, where I especially when I was younger, where I really learned the construction, and I got to give credit to another guy who gave me a huge nudge. There was an architect named Chino Srinivasa.
Unbelievable names.
Don't try to
I
say
know
it.
guys like Bill Smith, right? Oh, my nudge came from John Franklin. Right?
Spot on.
I got-
His name's like what?
Don't try to say Chino Srinivasa. This guy was an amazing
Chino.
engineer and architect. He was both. He
Smart.
had both stamps. Like he would design, but all these projects these guys I was working with were doing, he was a guy, God rest his soul, he passed away about 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
ago. But as part of my journey working with the new construction company, I'd literally spend hours and days in his office in Stoughton going through plans, just kind of learning. All right, how do you look at these plans? How do you read this? How do you do this? How do you do that?
Right.
So like for months, for years, literally, I would go. I wouldn't be there every day, but the days I would go, I'd be there for hours.
Yeah.
So
talk about an education.
Trust me, yeah, and that really opened my eyes to the structural components of a job, the engineering side. He wasn't the best designer, and so that's where my wife kind of fills that gap. She was trained in high-end design.
Yep.
When she was in college, she actually worked for a high-end furniture store called Bold Concept out of Europe.
Yep.
They sent her back and forth here and there, Europe and United States, to learn, how to design these homes and service these high-end clients. That would come in. So it was kind of a nice mix of all of it coming together, man.
Well, I mean, it's and now you've got a brokerage that's cranking. You obviously do a great job here at Crowd Lending. I constantly see the fix and flips that you're doing. Social media presence is spot on.
Trying, man, trying to level it up.
You got he's got the hat, right? I don't know how I feel about the hat being worn on my set. That's to be discussed later.
Any loans that come in, it's all coming back to Crowd. Everyone
That's right.
knows I'm Crowd Lending. It's right on LinkedIn. It's funny. People see that first. They see Crowd Lending.
Do they really?
Yeah. No, people, especially when they look for hard money lenders on there. I'm getting a ton of folks finding me on LinkedIn now.
Well, good. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to hear.
Definitely.
Well, Robert, we could probably talk forever. I really appreciate you coming on. I think it was great to hear sort of the path that, you don't necessarily have to get into real estate on day one,
right?
But there are nudges that lead you to real estate or lead you to whatever it is. And if you can recognize those nudges and talk about them, I think it's helpful.
It is, man. Turning points. Those nudges are turning points in your life. And I always reflect on that, right? I'm like, when did things kind of go in a given direction? You can pinpoint a person or an event that led to each step of the way.
So sometimes sometimes you get into a situation, right? And I always make a joke like, how did I end up here? Right? But if you and I say it jokingly, like something's crazy's going on, it's like, Jesus, how did I end up right here with all this
on the other side,
right? All this nonsense going on around me. But if you sit down and that's what this podcast is about. Like, let's sit down and figure out, how did you get here?
Right.
And in talking to my many, 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 many listeners that call me all the time with my fan mail and all that stuff, is they love to hear that there's not one path to success.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a million different ways to get there. It doesn't have to be, Dexter to Harvard to business school, right? It can be whatever. It could be a public school. It could be IBEW, if you're a union worker. If you go to work at Stop and Shop and you're working your way up that ladder and then something happens. So I think it's just wonderful to hear how different people end up in different locations. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. We're going to have you come back on because I want to hear how your son's Tito. Good, right?
You got it.
All right.
Nicely done.
I want to see how his soccer career ends. So, Robert Nichols, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody out there, as you know, if you need anything, just give me a call because everybody needs a nudge. Thanks, Robert.
Love it. Thanks, man.
You got it.